This is Assassin's Creed Valhalla that was released about 5 years ago in 2020. And we are going through the environments where we can see many different type of buildings. And thanks to the information that the artists published on ArtStation, we will get a very good idea on how those were built. So here we are on my pure ref on which I selected some breakdowns from some artists, and I'm going to start right here. So we have Lana Pencheva, a lead environment artist of Ubisoft Sofia, and we can start from the general screenshots, which are really beautiful. And I believe this is from the Siege of Paris, if I'm not mistaken. Not 100% sure, but I believe it's the case. So we see a church and we see a wonderful breakdown for which we can see exactly how it's done. I don't know if everybody can tell from here, but this is just one side of polygons. It's not double-sided. The interior is not modeled with the exterior. Those are different parts because of streaming. And then you can see here how they get assembled and how different materials can be used, different blending of materials. But here, this is very interesting. You can see this is really one for one. This piece was used right here. Then we have specific window that was added, same for here, same for right here, and then some details also, of course, under the to support the roof right here. And then this part also was added. The corners, I believe, are already part of the kit of this block here. So this is very interesting. Also, another point, the foliage and vegetation. Those are usually not done by environment artists. They are done by specialists, either biome artists, vegetation artists, or well, in some cases they can be called environment artists, depends on the studio, but those are usually added a little bit afterwards. So probably the work of the environment artist was to produce those guys right here, and then I don't know if the lead or other members of the team did the assembling, maybe the level artists, most likely, and then adding some foliage. So you see that this and that is the exact same pieces, right? It's the same assembly, same group, but with different foliage. I would venture to say that even like the materials, the blending, it's exactly the same regarding vertex painting, blending, decals, anything like that. It's absolutely identical, but since the foliage is different, it has a totally different look. And sometimes that's all you need to make it unique or more unique, right? So this is also another very interesting part, and you can see here how it is modeled this way here. It's cut. You see, it's quite rough. You don't need a lot of geometry here because you're gonna have the window with the window frames, which is gonna do well, which is gonna have more details and is gonna look beautiful. So this is super interesting, and see how many pieces in the kit. That is very interesting. And here you see everything. You see the floors, you see the doors, the door frames, some column pillars, supporting beams. You see absolutely everything. The decorative pieces and the structural pieces in the background, the big ones here. It is very interesting. And this is great. This is a roof kit. So you know, if you're wondering, if you're in college or you're after graduation, or you're just like hopeful to work, to get some work in a studio, doesn't matter that it's on a AAA title with hundreds, if not thousands of devs, and let's say at least hundreds of artists, or if it's for a very small indie studio, those are the techniques that are going to be part of your work. So you need to understand them. You need to, well, try them, master them. Maybe not master them, but you know, you need to use them and to be knowledgeable. So everything is observing a clear metric that's more likely 1 meter. On this side, I can't tell from here because you know there's the angle, and it really depends on the architecture. Could be 1 by 3, something like that. But usually for roofs, it's a little bit more tricky. It's not like walls that are very obvious. You know, 3 by 3, 3 by 4, very obvious stuff. But yeah, this is very interesting. And now this is going to make everything clear. This is the interior, right? So you have basically all those pieces, exterior pieces, which would be considered like the shell, the outer shell, this is how we call it, right, of any building. And then you have those big, whatever the style, those big door frames and window frames. In between, it's absolutely empty, of course. And then inside, you have the other wall. And this is due to rendering, because this is not shown, it's not rendered, it's not processed by the engine while the player is outside and is looking at these. And vice versa, when you are inside, whether you are in this one or in a bigger example right here, the exterior gets unloaded. It's not visible, it's not loaded. Simple as that, right? And there are many tricks, and in some cases you might wonder, if you're not familiar, you might wonder, okay, but how about I'm here and the door is open and I can start to see inside? Well, there are tricks, which honestly, this is not the department of the environment artist or the level artist. This is the basically the people managing the engine, and it's how it's with volumes and with like many different tricks are used depending on the engine. But this is another story, if I might say. The job of the environment artists are to produce those kits, assemble them, make them work, right? Make them very easy to use, I would say. So metrics has to be observed, like a very strict metric, very simple snapping together, and there is no overlapping or little gaps. Like it has to be very precise. That's a very important part. And then of course there's the question of the material, which is, well, the material artists, right, the texture artists, but alongside with the environment artists working with vertex blending, vertex painting, however it's called, but basically blending multiple material so that we break repetition, and also changing materials so that two different buildings will not look the same. So this was an amazing breakdown, very thorough. We see the exterior, the interior, the roofs. This is great stuff to learn. Like if you can't attend a school, if you can't afford a tuition in a college, wherever you live, you know, in some countries it might be more expensive than others, but it's always expensive to study in video game, in 3D art. I know because I've been in such school. But if you either don't want or can't afford it, well, this is your university. Okay, it's right here. It's accessible, it's free, and you only have, well, you only have yourself to blame if you don't work hard enough. I know it's not for everybody, of course, but you have all the answers basically. So moving on to the next artist, Cheka Vallar, and again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Um, so 3D artist who worked on I believe it's the Siege of Paris expansion, in this case, released in August 2021. The end result is a collaborative effort was made possible by the talented, passionate people at different Ubisoft studios all around the world. So yeah, in this case, in case of any Assassin's Creed, it's always the case. Many different studios, many different artists. But let's look at the work itself. Beautiful church. Very nice, with lots of wear and tear and some foliage growing here and there. Very nice stuff. And here we have a quick, straight to the point breakdown. I love it. So small pieces, you see that they can come in different pieces, different shapes, right? Different measures. So it all depends on the type of building, and especially with Assassin's Creed being historically accurate to a certain point, but regarding architecture, it pretty much is. They have to work with the references that they have, right? So it depends. In some cases, you might have a smaller piece, right? For the door opening, might be 3x3, whatever. But in some cases, it's more productive or more smart, like strategically, to have a longer piece, right? So it really all depends on their technical guidelines, technical art guidelines, like regarding the textile density, regarding the number of pieces for a kit. They do establish that, with art director, technical director, and all those people, and you see the result here. So it's really, really cool. And then you see another result, a different type. This is Villa. It's a kit for Villa kit. Villa, Villa meaning rich areas, slightly different type of architecture. We don't see like the whole building, but we see this part, and we see how it was built. And you can see, that is very interesting. You can see that there's not that much geometry. It's very low poly. But when you look at it this way, well, it works very well, because you have those supporting row of bricks, not supporting, but those row of bricks right here makes it possible to have it. You don't need that to be very round. It can be much more blocky, so eliminating the need for many edge loops, right? This part probably goes somewhere else, or is it's actually this part right here. This part looks a little bit rounder. Might be just an illusion because of the angle. It doesn't need to be, because of, again, those things right here, right? And you see the opening are very, very simple, and the window frames are actually quite round here. So they do have quite a bit of geometry, but since it is done separately, you save a lot, right? You save a lot on performances. And here you see in context, even in a quest right here, and then you see how that was done with triangular shapes, and this one here, which would be the those connecting to the walls, right? The parts connecting to walls. So you have those triangular shapes here, and then you have those pieces here. So it's very simple. It's very, very clean, done very cleanly. And this is super interesting. So thank you to Cheka Vallar for sharing. Moving on to another artist, Amancio De Almeida, senior artist at Ubisoft Bordeaux. So this is a very good breakdown of the kit. So this is for churches, but not only churches, but mainly in this case right here, right? So you have interiors, and you see all those pieces here. You have another interior, different. You see those are different shapes, because they could have been reused, but in this case, no, they were modeled specifically with different material. Then let's go right here. have yet another part, another need, another part, right? Another piece of the kit, other pieces from the kit with probably, the polys are assigned differently for assigning different materials. And here, very interesting, you can see that in this case, those pieces are actually modeled together, but not in this one, because we want variety probably for the different types of window frames, right? And now moving here, you see the roofs, and you see a roof being under construction, which is extremely interesting. And then you see it here. So this one is basically done in one block, right? Because it's very specific. And then those here, which can be reused over and over, are done in separate pieces. So that is extremely interesting. And then something else, let me just go from top to bottom right here. So this is yet a different kit, right? With different possible materials. Basically these, if I'm not mistaken, this and that is the same piece. It's actually one for all of those. It might be different, right? I don't know for sure, but they look very similar. Of course, those look very, very similar, like a basic probably 3x3 wall or 4x4. Could be 4x4 because those are large dimensions, but either 3x3 or 4x4. I guess would be 4x4 because this looks like it's 2x4, and this would be 2 by 6 by 5, maybe 5, and probably 6. Not so sure, but in some cases, in some kits, you need a few exotic pieces. Exotic being, it's a weird dimension, but you really need it to make it work with the references. Yeah, this one, it doesn't look 1.5 high as this. It definitely is not. It's like 1.25, right? If we're talking percentage. So it's not that interesting, but these are the kind of things that I'm interested in because I work with these things. So this is why I mentioned them. So this is a roof which is very nice, a lot of variety, lots of, it's really believable that it's an old, very old roof which has seen a lot of different weathers, a lot of, years, if not centuries, in case of churches. And then you have those pieces and you see how it's built. So you see that they have multiple pieces for variation, basically, right? Because the dimensions look very similar, like this one to this one, this one to this one, but we need to have a bit, we have to have options. So when we do, we can build different buildings, different locations, and the player doesn't feel like it's the same, because you can swap materials, right? As we see here, that's a very good example. But those are very similar materials. But if we go back here and then there and then this, like, you can definitely swap materials, but there's only so, I mean, it's good. It's part of the trick, right? Because it's all a big trick that we use so little, quote unquote, so little pieces or kits, and we make it look like it's kind of fresh, unique, or in the same style, but still unique, right? So you need to have some options with the geometry, right? Especially here, right? Because if your eye, it's even at an unconscious level, if your eye catches like this everywhere, it's going, like, your brain's going to go, hey, there's something wrong here. And that's why, like, a big mistake that inexperienced level and environment artists make is keeping straight edges on buildings. Like, unless you're doing modern, futuristic, like super clean, it's called architecture. Like, I worked in architecture for 7 years, and things are expected to be clean and straight because, they were just built. But in video games, it's really not what you want. like this kills believability. Um, we like your brain doesn't like the suspension of disbelief when you're playing a game and it's like with aliens or you're shooting space cowboys, whatever. It's a funny stuff that we can come up with. Um, if the environments they do have too many straight lines and they're visible and they're on the silhouette, like on the outskirt of the assets. It's also true for props, but buildings are even worse. Um, it's wrong. It's wrong, and it would do a huge difference even if you add a few edge loops and you just move a little bit outside and inside. But this is an art also. Don't do it just randomly. Follow references. Please use the advices that you were given. I hope you were given those advices already. Um, and just seeing those little details, those are more costly in a way, right? Because it's not just a line being not straight, it's actually geometry, like little tiles being like you can read from a distance. Like the test is from a big distance, and you don't see a straight line because here it's actually kind of a trick. Like you have a straight line here, okay, the wood part, but then you have those tiles. So from a distance, your eye it kind of melts together somehow, like from this distance, right? And here it's hard. It doesn't really seem like a straight line, but it is. And honestly, it might not be 100% straight, but honestly, it's too straight to my taste for sure. Uh, but it doesn't matter because this connects to that, which is not the visible part, right? It's here. So this is where you will accept your straight lines and it's gonna work. But anywhere that is like what we call the silhouette, right? Stuff popping out, if you will, of the buildings or of the asset, like you don't want straight lines. That's for sure. So this is great. This is why you see so many. It's not just variations here, it's variations there that are readable from a certain distance. So then you have those very important assets which do have, I wouldn't say that they have that much geometry. It's very interesting actually. They're quite low poly. This one is not super low poly. See, this is really round. This is a good angle. How many segments? I won't say just like that, but this is not super low poly, right? And this gets added here, which has very little geometry. So this is how you end up saving a ton of performances, and this is just great. So we have some beautiful doors and huge arch kind of door frame, and then with more of the same type of materials. And then you have some towers, which are really cool. And you can see dimensions are again adjusted for towers, right? So yeah, architecture is a very important topic to study when you're working on open world game. And you can be working on a game that's in like outer space, in the past, in the future, doesn't matter. Whatever the player is meant to be, it's always going to be played by human beings, right? And human beings are perceiving the environment, like architecture, through dimensions and measures, right? Like 2 meters, like 3 meters, 4 meters. And this is why it is so important. So if you're working on environments and you were led to believe that's not so important, please stop immediately, because on the job, this is all that matters. Like those are the first steps, right? Everything will be off. Everything will fall apart if your dimensions are not extremely precise. So that's really the first step on the job, I would say. So that was a great breakdown. Moving on to another artist, Olivier Carignan. So we have some information very interesting. Let's read that first. So this is from the Saxon Church's modular kit. So he worked for a year and a half on the project, and so a first pass was done by someone else, and he was put in charge of building a modular kit for the hundreds of Saxon churches, both interior and exterior. That is amazing. The kit is composed of about 400 pieces. We're used to build about 100 different churches. Just imagine churches, crypts, cloisters, everything related to the churches. So the kit has to be super versatile, right? The kit can be like any material, different materials can be used, but the base geometry will stay the same, and then some decorative elements, and of course foliage, decals, props laid out differently, right? So if you have played Valhalla, it's absolutely gigantic, and yeah, there are tons of churches, right? And in some, when you're in the same area, of course they can look similar-ish. In some cases, if you're used to it and you have the eye, you can tell like, oh, I see this piece is reused for this one. Of course, obviously. Imagine it's one kit that was used for about 100, so it's really amazing. But the work that they did, like the rest of the team, so this artist built the kit itself, but like the vegetation artist, the biome artist, the 3D artist who were doing the decorative stuff, and the level artist who put all of those together, along with, of course, the art director, the lead artist, the whole bunch, the whole gang. And you see another part with, of course, different banners and just laid out differently in a different state. And of course, it does look similar, but it looks believable, right? You're in the same country, in the same region, it's the same religion, so they have, there has to have some continuity. So it makes sense, it works, it's believable, and yeah, it's immersive, right? So those are really, really nice examples, really nice screenshots that you can see. There's another one right here from another angle. It's really cool with a very different roof. So kind of different stage of, not different stage of construction, but a different type of construction. And here we are going straight to the kit. So we see one part of the kit. So imagine 400 pieces. That is crazy, right? We're starting right here with just a few. And then you can make assemblies also, right? Like a tower right here, which would be, a few pieces already. And this can be reused in itself, can be a group and can be reused. And you can change the material, add stuff, remove stuff, of course, decoration. And that is super versatile. And then you see it right here. Again, another great example. You see the whole church assembled and you see all its parts. And you can see even small details, the wood rails being put just under the roof. It's amazing. And you see different type of roofs. So already you have 1, 2, 3, 4 completely different, totally different. And it's not just swapping a material. In this case, you have a whole part of the structure that is different, and the supporting part here is different too, right? So this is great. Like having a kit like that, like imagine even if you're by yourself and you're designing, well, you imagine you're working on an open world. You can be one artist, you can be 1,000 artists, it doesn't matter. It's just the time that it's going to take, right, to accomplish. But imagine you would have like such a kit. I mean, it would be just so fast. And you would do a first pass and all the churches would look, let's say they would look like that without the foliage. And your first pass would be, okay, I have like a kind of same-ish, like same looking type of church, but with a different structure, right? One can be longer, you can have this part here or whatever. And then you do another pass on which you do vertex painting, you do decals, you do foliage, you do a little bit of destruction or destructed parts, you can swap materials, and you end up with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right? Like hundreds of churches, and still it feels believable. Like, this is a great point of view, really, really nice point of view. And you see that when you add all the details, and this is not even all the decorative elements that there is in the game, it's just a pass. and it already looks glorious. Looks very, very good. Let's go in this corner. So now you see the interior, because the artist worked both on the exterior and interior kit. So that's just great. And this is from the bureaus, right? The little, well, they're not so little, but the places you gotta find to get, if I remember, legendary item, and then you gotta collect. You gotta find 6 of them or 8 of them. Can't remember. It's been a few years I haven't played, but I did play all through, like all the DLCs. I really love that game. Despite I know many people claiming it's not really an Assassin's Creed because you're a Viking and it's not stealth. Well, it's a Viking game, right? So, like, who really thought I would be sneaking, very delicately jumping on the rooftops? I mean, you can still jump on the rooftop, but I love the game for what it is. I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. If it doesn't show already, I will be analyzing most Assassin's Creed games from the recent past, the past titles, because yeah, I've played all of them very extensively. And this is another great shot. I like both of these shots, and you can appreciate the details, all the tech that goes into it, with either they use displacement or it's all pure geo. Um, can be a lot of things. I don't know. I haven't worked on this one. Then we'll move on to 3 artists. First one, Gat Karol De Leon, senior model artist. Very interesting. He worked on some props, but more precisely on the wood structure. So he's saying, I was entrusted with creating the benchmark for the wooden structures, which was then adopted by the team. So benchmark can mean many things. In this regard, it definitely means artistic benchmark, right? The level of quality, the look and feel, what we wanted to achieve. That was approved and that was worked with, alongside with the art direction. Let me just finish what he's saying. It was really interesting task trying to figure out the art direction for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I could say that I've grown a lot in this project, which is awesome. So that pretty much tells us that this was early in the project, right? It could have been in the conception phase, pre-production, to establish how we wanted these things to look. And for those who have not played, I mean, these things are absolutely everywhere. They are related to gameplay because you climb, you jump from these things, and they are used to assemble, those watchtowers. And I mean, you see, it's the wood structures that are absolutely everywhere. So the benchmark is not only artistic, which in this case it looks very good, right? But it's also, like I mentioned, gameplay is related, and you have optimization, and you have, well, gameplay, right? How it's gonna work, the dimension, how is this enough for the player to climb, to jump, to, all those things. So benchmark involves more than just it looks good, right? So good job, very interesting, cool breakdown. Let's move on to another artist, Martin Bonev, principal environment artist. So he worked on the Dawn of Ragnarok, which was a DLC that I personally have not played this one, right? So I played everything about Valhalla except this one, which is a standalone. It's essentially a spin-off game, I would say, because it's not a DLC, but it's kind of a DLC, but it's not. Long story short, I personally have not played this one, but I have nothing against, and I probably will end up playing. But so let's see what he's saying. I had the opportunity to work on the Rampart architectural kit for AC Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok. The design and initial modeling are done by someone else, another artist, Radi Avramov. He did an amazing job, and it was a pleasure to work with him. And his job, this artist, was to polish about half of the modules and groups, like adding decals, vertex paint, chipping the edges, and getting them to a more organic feel. So this is very interesting. You see that if you work in a studio, AAA or indie, you might work on a part of an asset. Meaning, you could be like super excited, right? The art director or the lead is telling you, hey, you're gonna work on this. And oh my God, that's awesome. You're looking at concept art, right? and you're like, oh, that's my dream. I wanted to work on big fortification, whatever. Ah, that's cool. You might do the first pass, like this artist, right? So, like, you get handed the block out, you have the dimensions, and you do a simple pass. You test some materials. Of course, you work on the UVs. You make it work. It looks good. It looks probably repetitive, right? It's like the same tiling material, and then either yourself or in some cases another artist is handed the pieces, actually the kit, right, or part of the kit, and makes it look like that. And let's take a look. Actually, this is how it looked like when it was done, right? So you see decals, maybe color variation, maybe some masks were used, RGB masks possible, um, maybe additional work. He said some chipping the edges, so that can be done in many different ways. Could be edge decals, could could it be sculpting, baking? Like, it's not impossible. I don't know personally. It's not impossible. It does happen in some cases. Could be heavy use of decals, of uh, many tricks with vertex painting. Could be a lot of things. So see here, you have a very different kind of destructed piece right here part. Then you see this is, of course, those are the two pieces with a variation, with a lot of variation, actually, right? So you see different dimensions, the same tone, the same general direction for the art using decals and vertex blend, but you see that it's making it work. And then in context, well, with everything added, whether you see it from here or from there, it's very interesting. It looks very good. So again, thank you very much to the artist for a very interesting breakdown. And then we are jumping to another artist who I believe, yeah, worked on the Dawn of Ragnarok also. So Teodor Ivanov, senior artist. This is specifically a bridge, right? A really, really cool bridge. And we see a very cool mount also with Evor. Oh, I have twice the same. Okay, that's okay. So we can maybe zoom in a little bit more and appreciate the work. And then we can see here, very often you will see the character next to a structure. It was the case for the previous artist. Always to give a sense of scale. It's very important, especially when it's big. It really helps. It helps always, but when it's big, it's even more helpful. So yeah, you can appreciate this simple version, I guess, the clean version, and then let's dig into it and look at all the different pieces for this module. And then you see another part, which is the broken with, a gap that is still, I believe, you can still navigate. You can probably jump here. Not 100% certain, but that's what I believe. Possibly, right? But it's very interesting, like for an old bridge, having a part that is destroyed, and then you see how this is handled with blocks. Like, of course, you're gonna have the blocks on the side, but added blocks in the middle, and then you have a tileable texture of kind of soil-ish, right? Very interesting. And then you see it go this way also. And you see from this angle, it's a bit clearer. Very interesting. Tons of blocks displayed also. And definitely on the ground, there will be more blocks you can see that are destroyed. So very interesting also from this artist. Thank you very much. So this concludes our exploration of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Those breakdowns, I hope, give you more understanding, better understanding of how these things are done. And if you're a subscriber to my channel and you've seen other videos on other games, you probably can start to see a pattern emerge, right? Modular building kit is like the backbone of environment building, right? So it's not just like environment artists might be called to do very different things, on a production. But if your role calls for buildings, small or big, complex or simple, modular building kit is something you have to understand, you have to know how it works, and you have to be able to do it properly. So the more you learn about these techniques, which are considered basic in the industry, this is really something you should investigate, study, and like you have to be grateful to these artists and those studios also, who are allowing the artists to share as much information. We are really lucky to have so much information today. So use it, study it, apply it on your portfolios, and importantly, if you end up with very beautiful portfolio pieces, make sure you show. However, if it's exactly like that, but show how it's done. Like this is one image. Like if you're building your portfolio and you want to work in video games, like this is worth so much. Like if you done that, you have used these things, right? This technique, you have a building and you're not showing that, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot. Like you're missing out on an amazing opportunity. It's one image that will let know every lead artist, art director, anybody who would look at your portfolio that, okay, that person knows. Like you're in the know, right? It's no secret. That person knows how it's done, and like you would be considered. Of course, there's more to it for getting a job, but you as far as the basics of environment design level, like level art, environment art position, you would be ahead of those who are not showing that. Simple as that. So I hope it helps, and have fun. Go play Assassin's Creed Valhalla if you haven't. It's a very cool game, and just for the environments, even if you're not into Assassin's Creed games, check it out, watch videos. It's very interesting architecturally, at the very least. So thank you very much.